Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Lunch Update, our program that helps you stay curious, connected, informed, live, and in real time. As always, this conversation and all of Lunch Update programs are made possible by our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, and a special thank you to our Accelerate sponsor, Baker Tilly, and our small and emerging business sponsor, Easy Office Products. We record all of these, and so if there's something you didn't catch today, want to rehear, relive, or share with others later this afternoon, generally, we try to get out the same day. You can go to madisonbiz.com and see the link to all of our programming, including this one that we have this morning or this afternoon. Today, we'll be joined by Downtown Madison, Inc. President Jason Ilstrup for a conversation about the newly released 2023 State of Downtown Report. And then after that, we'll be having a talk with Dane County Sheriff Kalvin Barrett about public safety priorities, updates on county projects, and much more. Before I do that, though, just a few chamber updates, actually just one chamber update, getting to the end of the year. There are a few spots left for our big night out. It's our final big night out of the year. It'll take place Wednesday, December 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. And it will take place at the brand new, recently opened Black Business Hub at 2352 South Park Street. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've heard about it. We've had it on this show, but if you haven't seen it, if you can encourage you to, if you're heading to the Beltline this afternoon on your way home, maybe take Park Street and take a look at the building. It's a 4-story, 76,000 square foot state-of-the-art center designed to support and accelerate success of entrepreneurs and business owners. At our event next Wednesday, there'll be drinks, light appetizers, and some fantastic networking opportunities. As always, admission is free for chamber members, and we're expecting a couple hundred people just based on registration. So I'd encourage you to sign up now. Expectations is it will likely hit capacity here shortly. So again, you can do that at madisonbiz.com and look for a big night out. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our first guest today, Jason Ilstrup. Jason was hired to lead Downtown Madison Incorporated in January 2018. Prior to that, he had several roles in the hospitality industry, including as the general manager of Hotel Red here in Madison. But he has a diverse background. For any of you who know him and have worked with him, you know the diversity of his experience makes him well suited to take on this role, representing and being the face and the voice of our downtown and DMI, which includes the advocacy and the political work that they do, but also maybe even more importantly, the education, community service, and just keeping our downtown front and center. So with that, welcome, Jason.
Well, thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate that very nice introduction. I just want to say a huge thank you to the Chamber for running events like this. It's so important to get information and conversations out like this. And also thank you for the continued partnership. The Downtown Madison Inc. and the Chamber have been longtime friends and allies, and I feel like our relationship is stronger than ever. So that comes down to you, Zach, and the team and your board. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Agreed. And so you're no stranger to Lunch Update. So thanks for joining us again. Last week was an exciting week for the region, but for downtown, certainly for DMI, for your board and for your staff and for you. You released the 2023 State of Downtown Madison report, which is always just full of, it's just a wealth of good data, good information, just the work that you and your team do, just amazing what you're able to produce each year that gives us such insights. So, to me, I think that's the best place for us to spend some time today. So let's just start with that event. I wasn't able to make it, but we had some team members there said it was sold out, packed to the room was packed to the gills. So congrats, but tell us a little bit about just the vibe of the event.
Well, thank you. As somebody that used to be in the hotel industry, I was getting a little scared by our numbers, but it was standing room only in the back. Amy Supple and the team, the Edgewater, did an amazing job as they always do. So we were able to have a wonderful event, release the report, and also have a really good discussion with several panelists, including Bob Bruni from ULI, Heather Stouter from the city's planning division, Ellie Westman Chin as well. It was just a really, really good conversation with a lot of the leaders here in the downtown.
So let's start with what you're tracking in terms of downtown. Certainly development and investment are key indicators that year after year this report tracks, and which is great for us to be able to go back and look at the progressions that we're seeing. We had an advocacy in the AM where we convened all of the Dane County mayors, all 7 of them, and investment and development was called the defining issue impacting our region. But it was the investment and development in workforce housing. So let's just talk about what you're tracking around workforce housing downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not new to this gig of speaking to you, and I've already made a mistake. I forgot one of our panelists, Kirsten DiMartino. So with all due respect to Kirsten. So when you're looking at the new report, I highly recommend downloading it. You can see the link here on the side. There's a lot of great information, and some of the most positive information is on development and what's happening with housing here in the downtown area. One note also for your listeners is that Downtown Madison Inc. tracks all development on our website at our development tracker, so you can see what's going on. We see about 8,000 units being built in the downtown. That's apartment units in the downtown space. Not as much commercial development, obviously, because things have changed significantly with how people are working over the last few years, but significant growth in the housing area. And I think you see that in a couple of different ways in the report. One is in net new construction. Heather Stouter, who's a planning director for the city of Madison, said on our stage just last week when we released this report that both 2022 was a record year for construction starts in Madison, and 2023 is a record upon that. We're probably going to see that in 2024 as well. That is not only the city of Madison, but in particular downtown. And that comes out in the numbers. One of the numbers that is really staggering for me is the increase in the tax base. So this is how you know that development is happening here in Madison. You know, we've gone, it's increased 105%. We're just under $4 billion in total tax base here in the downtown. That's a huge growth. Again, 105% just in the last dozen years. So you can see that downtown Madison is a hot place. It's where people want to do their business. It's where people want to do their work, and that really plays out in those development numbers.
So what was the number you said that were? I was recently at a football game, and I looked out and I saw 5 cranes across the downtown. I took a picture of it, and I was trying to figure out if I could figure out what those projects were. But what was the number of units you said are approved and under construction?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 7,500 to 8,000 units are in the works right now. Now, admittedly, some of those projects, they're just early on and they're through the entitlement phase or early on in the entitlement phase. So some might not get built, but many of them will be. Just one of those very large projects that was approved in the last few weeks is Core Campus's 5th site, which is bounded by Broome, Johnson, and that in the area. It's going to have, I think it's over 500 apartments and 1,750 different beds in that building alone. It's a series of 4 different towers that are about 14 to 15 stories each. That's a sort of larger development we're seeing. Another project that just started their construction, actually their demolition, is on East Wilson Street at the State of Wisconsin Investment Board site. Quad Capital Partners and First Martin are doing a 330-unit apartment building right on that site with great amenities. There'll be a food hall on the first floor, a knockout through towards the water. So some really great high-end housing that's coming into this market. So some really exciting development projects, not to even mention some of these great cultural amenities and magnets that we need. The new History Center, which is going to begin construction here any day now at the top of State Street. We're hoping that's going to be directly across the street from a new Veterans Museum. And then, of course, the very exciting Lake Monona waterfront project, which we hope will begin earnest with the road construction of the John Nolan Causeway in 2025 and 2026. There's a lot of exciting projects here. And I'm just thankful anytime anyone counts cranes. So thank you, Zach. We appreciate it. It's always good to see those towers.
Well, one of the things, counting cranes is partly because we both know that we've been woefully under building, right? For the last decade plus, we just have not been keeping pace with what we need to build. So when you talk about that 7,500 to 8,000 planned or expected units, how does that compare to prior years downtown? Is that on par, or are we seeing a big jump up?
Oh, no. That's a big jump, a big increase. And Zach, you're right. I mean, we have the affordable housing issue, which again, the definition of affordable is different for every single person. But the name of the game is you have to create more units, and honestly, more units at all sizes. It comes down to supply and demand. Yes, we need to incentivize, obviously, certain folks that need assistance with housing and 30% or 50% of average median income. But, we just need to build more units. And downtown is a place that can happen. And it's happening, to answer your question, at a record clip. And honestly, we're probably still behind the numbers we needed to. You and I have had this discussion before. I think this report was done about a year or two ago, and they needed 10,000 units. We're 10,000 units behind, and then they needed 2,000, 2,500 plus for the next 10 years. We still have a lot
every
of
year they needed 20.
Correct. We still have a lot of work to do. DMI is very proud of looking for new spaces within the downtown. There's not limited space, right? It's the isthmus. But one of those areas that we're focusing on is Regent Street. We've seen tremendous growth on Regent Street, particularly closer to West Wash. But we put a series of comprehensive plan amendments forward to try to increase the density in that area, and so that you signal to developers that that's an area where you're actually not going to have much displacement. There's not a lot of housing there now, but yet it's close to campus and close to the amenities that the young folks that are moving to downtown want. And so we were very successful, and the council passed that new comprehensive plan amendment set just the last couple of days.
You mentioned affordability, and certainly it's on top of everybody's mind, certainly on top of everyone's priority list of, as we grow and continue in this, to become this global tech hub that we've been working on for a dozen years, and now looks like it's coming to fruition. Do you believe that downtown offers relative affordability? And if so, what, or why or why not, if depending on your answer?
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question. I think in some ways there can be some housing affordability. There's some older housing stock and some units that are what we call natural occurring affordable housing in and around the downtown. The newer units tend to be less affordable, which means we're going to have to do things to help subsidize that development to ensure that there is enough what we call workforce housing, right? I used to work in hospitality. You want to make sure the bartender, the housekeeper, the front desk worker, it can live in and near their place of work. I think that's a very important thing to do just for community, but also environmentally and sustainability and resiliency. We need to have that happen, but that's going to have to be subsidized. You and I, Zach, took part in a wonderful conversation with Kurt Paulson, a housing economist, just last week, really talking about how difficult the math is right now to build affordable housing. And it becomes even harder in downtown, obviously, because the land value is higher here. But yet, we're seeing some very innovative approaches to create more affordable housing in the downtown. And the two examples that I would cite right now, or three examples I would cite right now, are the St. John's project, which is the St. John's Church. They took a facility. They don't necessarily need as much space in their faith facility now, and they're building a new church, and then on top of it, affordable housing. The same thing with the neighborhood house in the Regent Street area. It's a great project they're partnering with Alexander on. The first project was with our friends Mark Binkowski and the team at ULI. And then also what's happening with Bayview in the Community Development Authority's housing in the Triangle, which is bounded by Regent, West Washington Park. Some really innovative and important work happening there. We need to support that so we have as relative of affordable housing in the downtown as we can.
So you mentioned commercial development. So let's shift from housing to commercial development. What type of construction activity are you seeing downtown when it comes to commercial?
Yeah, there's less commercial happening. We're just not seeing as much of that. There has been a couple of projects, obviously the WIDA project, part of the Archipelago down on East Wash. And then we're hearing of another few projects that might have some commercial mixed in with that. There's, of course, the larger planned project for the American Exchange Bank, this wonderful project that ULI potentially could build on the square. We're not hearing about too much. However, we are seeing, some relative positivity when it comes to our office. Obviously, the vacancy rate, as our report shows you, is at 16.7%, as high as it's been in several years. We're seeing more folks work, shorter amount of time in the downtown. So the new norm is for remote capable workers, so workers like the two of us, is 3 days a week downtown, but we're seeing them come back in droves there. But I think the positive is, right, there is still some positive. 16.7% is very good compared to other like cities, if that's Boulder, if that's Indianapolis, if that's Milwaukee.
I think San Francisco just came out with their third quarter, 34% downtown vacancy.
Right. That tells you a couple of different things, Zach. One, we've done some things pretty well in planning in the past. Nothing I had to do with, but mayors and councils, we never overbuilt office here, right? Two, we're also next to an area, the capital, the city government, where you're just going to naturally need a series of workers. We are going to lose some state workers, which is concerning, but we're also opening up that property for redevelopment, also a positive. But I think it all really now bounds in a term that a lot of people are using about office. It's called the flight to quality. And so employers are making the decisions based on two quality factors. They're going to invest in office because they want to bring people together. I think we all know bringing people together, creates innovation, which you have preached forever. Thank you, Zach. It just brings, culture and really helps with a lot of different things. And those are the new criteria that employers are using to base their office decisions. But that flight to quality is two things. Again, it's a really nice building, Class A building that has the amenities you want. We have that in spades here in downtown. But second, that flight to quality is location. The employees that are coming, particularly younger employees, want to be located near amenities and things that they want in their life. That's they can go out after and go to the Sylvie to a concert, or go to the Cole Center for a game, or they can go to see some art, but they can also be next to great lunch places like Morris Ramen or Toto Fresco or whatever. They're in the hub and they're next to the people that they want to be with. Downtown has both of those. And so we're sitting in a pretty good position. Is there work to do, Zach? Absolutely. Do we all need to create more magnets to draw people downtown? Absolutely. But I think we're sitting in a pretty good position right now.
What is that? I mean, so we were at 7 point something% before the pandemic. Now we're at 16 something. So we've seen, more than doubling in the vacancy. What concerns you about that when it comes to that proximity economy, right? So, you need foot traffic and you need bodies to be open on a Monday for lunch, and, to be able to get enough money to be on, retail on State Street. So when thinking about the proximity economy, I get the flight to quality gives us an advantage, that gives the downtown an advantage versus other parts of the region. But what are the concerns that you have if we don't start getting more people downtown and more occupancy?
Well, honestly, you mentioned it. It's all of the jobs that help service those folks that were working downtown, the lunch locations, the parking attendants, all of these different things that you and I use on a daily basis here in downtown. That less of that is happening. And so again, we need to redouble our efforts to invite people back to come downtown, create the best downtown with the most amenities we can. So it basically becomes irresistible. And then therefore, then the places that people are going to be going for lunch, right? They'll go out to Tipsy Cow or Marigold or whatever that place is. And so then it just, that success begets that success. But it is a bit of chicken and egg, right? You need to have the places open to create the quality of life, and the people that create the vibrancy, and the workers. I'm a former hospitality person myself. That has to happen as well. And so you have to just create as many reasons for people to come downtown as possible, and including the office workers. But of course, also you want folks coming in for events like concerts on the square, farmers market, and then tourists. And I made this joke. We just love Chicago people's money here in downtown because they spend the money, but don't use all the services. So please come on in, Chicagoites, Chicagoans, Minneapolitans. I am that. So I do know that they can come as well.
Okay. So you brought up quality of life. So let's just talk on quality of life for a second. Quality of life, a big component of quality of life is safety. So when it comes to safety, the perception of safety and actual safety metrics, is where I want to focus a few minutes. Last year, we did some public opinion polling to just sort of test where and how people felt about public safety. It was the first time we generally poll on a semi-regular basis, but it was the first time we really polled on safety. What was interesting about that was the closer that you were to downtown, the safer you felt about downtown. So, I mean, there's something in that about the more you spend downtown, the closer you are to it, the more safe you feel about downtown. But what's your assessment right now on downtown safety?
Thank you for doing that information and that polling, because that your point is well taken. Folks that are downtown regularly, they live closer to downtown, therefore you're going to be downtown more regularly. You see that it's safe. Our number of criminal instances in our report, but the difference between 2019 and 2023, and I'm sure we can certainly go over this with the sheriff as your next guest, is down. It's still down. Obviously, we've grown since 2021 and 2022. There were just less people down here, and so logically there was less criminal instances. But downtown is a safe downtown. But it all is about perception of safety. And so again, what you have to do, Madison Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, they're only part of that safety, feeling safe. What the number one reason why people feel safe in a community is vibrancy in other people. They want to see other people. They want to see life. You're therefore going to feel more safe. So it's our job as an organization and all of our sister organizations and the chamber as well to invite people to come downtown and to participate. And therefore, you're going to see more people and you're going to feel more safe. Admittedly, we are specifically working on some criminal issues, and we're doing some really great work amongst community partners and things like the Isthmus Safety Initiative to help increase any sort of gun violence or any sort of sexual violence, these big crimes. And we're doing really proactive work with community development, public health, MPD, and the neighborhoods on this. And so we're starting to see the effects of that. And the number of criminal instances are down. So it's not only the number of actual crimes that are happening, but it's that perception. And we need to do everything we can to change that perception and make sure that everyone in our community, no matter how close you live to the downtown, feels safe.
One of the major bright spots in the report was an increase in pedestrian counts, and you already addressed the visitor spending, the Chicago spend. But so maybe just get a little granular on the data and just also being careful on time here. But what do you, in the data that you're seeing about pedestrian counts and visitor spending, what's all that mean for the downtown? What are those bright spots?
Yeah, just a quick background. Pedestrian counters are located on both King Street and every block of State Street, and we count the number of pedestrians that go by. And the data obviously spiked way down under COVID, but is now in some blocks rebounded all the way to 2019. What that says is there's more activity happening in downtown. In fact, DMI and Madison Central Business Improvement District are investing in new technology, something called Placer AI, where we're able to track cell phone usage, and we know, where people are, and we know where people are going. That's going to give us the information we need to be able to plan properly for downtown and plan the amenities we need to make sure that we're staffed properly. But it's good to see the life back downtown and those pedestrian count numbers. The truth is in the numbers. We're seeing significant increases in traffic compared to the COVID years, and we're right back right near those 2019 numbers, which is very positive.
Okay, well, final question for you. So you and I have been doing a lot of Madison pitches lately around airlines, right? So we've been using this crystal ball analogy of like, if you looked into a crystal ball and you wanted to see where the future was, it'd be Madison. It's kind of the pitch we've been doing. So I'll ask you that question, but localized. So you're looking into your crystal ball. What's on the horizon for the downtown? What's your one big prediction for 2024?
The downtown Madison is going to continue to be a multi-use downtown that is great for residents, workers, visitors, and tourists. But the downtown Madison is going to continue to plan and work forward to make sure that every person in our community feels like they have something for them here in the downtown. If we invite everyone in the community, that's just that many more people that are going to come down, enjoy, and participate in the downtown. Use our small businesses, do everything they can to create the life and vitality here. And I think 2024 is going to be another strong year in downtown Madison.
Great, Jason. Thanks for spending some time with us. We certainly appreciate you, the partnership, the work you guys do. So thanks for the quick update. And if you are, we put the link to the report in the chat. But just if you can't find it, just go to DMI's website. It's as I said at the top of the show, it's a great report, a wealth of information. Appreciate that you continue to do that, Jason. I know it's not an easy.
We appreciate you, Zach, very much. I appreciate the relationship with the chamber, and thank you, and hope you have a wonderful holidays.
All right, take care. Our next guest, Kalvin Barrett, was appointed the 53rd Dane County Sheriff on May 2021. Sheriff Barrett has served as previously as the Dane County as a deputy within Dane County Sheriff's Department, and was the first Black officer in the history of the Sun Prairie Police Department. Also was at the Wisconsin State Fair Park Police Officer, among many other law enforcement roles. Suffice to say, he's got a great background that makes him well suited for this, because he was also an instructor at Madison College. He was the faculty director in the Criminal Justice Studies program. He led defense and arrest tactics. We are lucky to have him. And so with that, I will bring in our next guest, the Sheriff. Sheriff, how are you, sir?
I am doing well today. How are you all doing?
Great. So let's just get into it. You heard the rapid fire questions for Jason. I'll treat you the same way. So we're just going to jump right into it. We're talking about cranes downtown, and probably cranes that we hope we could see soon. And so what's the latest you can share on the progress around building a new Dane County jail downtown?
Yeah, so the update on having a safe, humane, and sustainable jail facility is that we are at another pause. We are at another fork in the road in regards to the options that are available. On November 14th, the bid process for the 7-story, 825-bed facility yielded one bidder.
Hey, Sheriff, can I interrupt you really quick? This happened to us last time you were on. This is when we talk about live. Yours volume got really low right when you got into the good numbers there. So
is that better?
That's better right there.
Yes, excellent. I will not move.
All right. All right. So lay those numbers on us again.
Yeah, so on November 14th, our bidding process ended or closed, and we only had one bidder. That was Myron Construction, and the bid came in approximately $27 million over the amount of money we had budgeted. So right now, the decision makers, which include our Dane County Board as well as our county executive, have to determine whether or not we're going to go back out for a rebid, or if we're going to borrow the additional $27 million to get the project started as soon as possible.
You started the top of that, that introduction with safe and humane. I think there are some questions out there about, I think people hear a new jail, how much space, it's being proposed, it's over budget, people don't want it, people do want it. Can you just talk about, from your perspective, somebody with your experience in law enforcement and public safety, and what you see day to day leading the sheriff's department and overseeing the jail? Why is this jail needed? What's the reason why we need to focus on not just the cost, but on the need?
Absolutely. So a lot of times we look at the numbers and the figures and we see the cost, what the dollar amount is. But our focus in seeing and working in a jail every single day is what is the cost or the price we put on humanity, dignity, and respect. Our ultimate goal is to reduce recidivism and stop the cycle of crime, arrest, incarceration, release. And we are unable to do that with an unsafe, inhumane, borderline unconstitutional facility that is really doing what it was designed to do in the 1950s. The city county building was built in the 1950s, and at that time, it was designed and built to do or to reflect the values of the community. Remember, the 1950s was before the Supreme Court case of Brown versus the Board of Education, and the 1967 case of Loving v. Virginia, which made it illegal to outlaw interracial marriage. So the jail was designed to physically contain. We are here in 2023, and our mindset and our values are different. It's no longer about physical containment, but it's about rehabilitating and providing people with the resources that they need so that when they are released with a warm transition, they no longer commit the crimes. And our goal is to get to the root causes of those crimes. And it's hard to do that when you have to close a section because it's unsafe, it's inhumane, and you're constantly using solitary confinement for medical and mental health areas.
I mean, obviously you're an elected official in a liberal city, a liberal county, more progressive county. Do you have to scratch your head sometimes when you think about how are we willing to accept what you see on a day-to-day basis? If that's not sort of the need isn't the overriding question that we're all grappling with. Does that surprise you when you hear the questions?
Yes, especially with the resistance or the backlash or the pushback from it. I do understand the cost. I understand there are other things we can do in our community to help with other areas. But it is a head scratcher when there is pushback, and those who do pushback have yet to take a tour of the facility.
You talked about rising costs. Obviously, every delay we've seen in the last few years has caused additional rising costs. We now have a high interest rate environment. Certainly, we continue to see labor constraints, which drive up labor costs, and then just the cost of the construction itself, the wood, the steel, the screws, the sheetrock, everything is more expensive. So as you see those delays and you see the challenges, what are the budgetary considerations that you're looking at with the jail? And I guess I'm probably more interested in sometimes in Dane County and Madison, we only look inward, right? It's what was it last year versus this year? What was the cost a week ago versus the cost today? And we missed 2 points. One, what is the need, which we've talked about. But the other one is when you look at similar facilities around the region, how does this compare when it comes to budget constraints and budget costs with the jail?
Yeah, so we are behind in regards to the other facilities that are being built throughout the state. The most closest is the Rock County Jail. And they're nearing completion to their jail project as we have yet to break ground. And they have been successful because they locked in yesterday's prices to build their jail. The longer you delay, the more time that we spend, we prolong the suffering of those in the facility, but the costs go up. In 2020, a 7-story, 922-bed facility cost $148 million. Now, a 6-story, 825-bed facility is over $200 million. So the more we delay, the more the cost is going to go up. That's why there's such a push to build it and start as soon as possible.
So at the top, you talked a little bit about the single bid, right? You got a single bid that came in. Now it seems like the latest news is there's some discussion about maybe that the county should rebid the entire project, and that's under consideration. What are your thoughts on rebidding?
Yeah, so the conversations that we had at a previous committee meeting last week did not yield any additional information that would lead us to believe that rebidding would yield a different result. We're not changing the scope of the project, and we now risk having a more expensive project with a higher bid, or even worse, not having a bidder at all because the project's been pushed out even farther, which would be absolutely detrimental to the program or to the project.
So bird in the hand versus two in the bush is okay. So you talked about this when you were talking about safe and humane, and the focus that versus where we were when the jail was built, where we are today, and who we are today. I pretty much everywhere I hear you go, you talk about reducing incarceration. So how does that actually happen here in Dane County?
Yeah, well, number one, it starts with getting to the root causes of the issues that we see. And I like to use an example of a fast-flowing stream we call society. And we, as the criminal justice, as the law enforcement agency, are downstream pulling people out of this fast-flowing river, and getting them involved in our criminal justice system. What we need to do is go upstream and find out why people are falling in that river in the first place. And the programs and implementations that we've done over the past 2.5 years have really started to get to the root causes of the issues that we see of addiction being one of the biggest. Whether it's alcohol or substance abuse, we need to get to the root cause and provide people with resources so they're no longer abusing alcohol or other substances. We have a Vivitrol program, which is a free program. We provide a medication that helps individuals with alcoholism as well as with opioid use disorder that we give for our residents here in our facility. Last year, we started our medication assistant treatment program, which continues the use of an opioid use disorder medication that helps with addiction, so that when people are released, they don't go right back to committing the same crimes again. We have free resource windows for individuals, and we've even changed our Huber program so that Huber now means jail diversion. So if someone is sentenced to Huber, they are now out in the community with a monitoring bracelet, which is a perfect balance of accountability, public safety, but also rehabilitation, keeping people in their support systems. So there's a lot of things and programs we're doing to ensure that we're not just trying to arrest our way out of the issues we see in our society.
And it appears to me this has become a community collaboration, that it's not just the sheriff's department, that those programs that you talked about and others are collaborations and partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about who those stakeholder groups are and those community organizations are that help improve overall criminal justice? What do those programs and relationships look like?
Yeah, well, number one, it starts with the other agencies that are here in our county. It continues on to our district attorney's office, our Dane County Board of Supervisors, our county executive, but also organizations like the Black Men's Coalition, the Urban League, the Madison College helps us out. There are all so many different organizations that play a huge role in us getting to those root causes. And it's the relationship foundation which allows us to help those that are incarcerated right now, rehabilitate and stop that cycle of violence, arrest, and release.
So I think we've talked about it before, and I know it's certainly probably been embedded in the conversation that we've been having. But the jail has been a point of contention for some in the community, right? It isn't. I mean, certainly it has been approved, and even if the price goes up and it's not the same project that was proposed, but there's been a general recognition that the 1950s style jail is not safe, is not humane. We need to do better, and we should be doing better as a community. But what happens if it doesn't move forward? If there is a rebidding and there's no new bidder, or if additional resources aren't given for a future price increase? What's the risk of not moving forward with this building? What does it mean for the community? And maybe more importantly, because I've heard you talk about this, and I think it's important for our listeners and viewers, what does it mean for the people who are housed in the facility?
Number one, it means they will continue to be housed in a facility that uses bars, that doesn't have any medical beds, doesn't have any mental health beds, and the limitations of the facility forces us to use solitary confinement for those that are in medical emergencies and mental health emergencies. So this is what we talk about when it's borderline unconstitutional. When someone's going through a mental health crisis and the only place we have to place them is in a solitary confinement cell, that's the worst place to put them. So this will continue. And then we will release that individual without providing them with the help and services that they need. Then they commit a crime and then they come back, and that cycle continues. so it doesn't get to the root causes of the issues. And we will continue to place those who we care about in some of the worst conditions in Dane County. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that when people are released back into the community, they come out built up and better and not bitter and broken. And without a new facility, we'll continue to release bitter and broken individuals back into the community.
So how does that message get out? It seems to me that a lot of the messaging that gets out is sort of in two places. One, the disparities and the increases in incarceration, which you talked about, but certainly we don't have enough time. We could do a whole show just on what you believe and what the work you've done in your past and you do in your current role. And then the other is just the cost, right? I mean, it kind of seems like that seems like this paradox that we get stuck in. But how can people actively engage and contribute with this ongoing dialogue about safety, about humanity, about not doing what we did 70 years ago and expecting a different outcome 70 years later? How can people engage in the process?
Well, number one, I would encourage all, and we've opened up for the past year, that everyone, whether it's a community group, your religious organization, your business, your work, come take a tour of our facility. You will be able to see what it looks like. You'll be able to see how the dust settles, the smell, the odor, the must, the bars that are exposing lead. You will be able to see that, and then envision someone you care about being incarcerated there. Your niece, your nephew, your daughter, your grandparent, your mother, your father, and ask them yourself, is this where you would want them to be if they made a mistake? And if the answer is no, that is something I've seen to be very successful in changing the perception for people to understand that our focus should be on humanity, dignity, and respect, with consideration to the cost. But the cost shouldn't be the only factor when we're dealing with our family members and people we care about.
So I'm going to pull out a little bit. We just spent a lot on the jail, and it's certainly the sort of the most news relevant topic that's out there right now. Certainly, I think people appreciate the comprehensive update that you just gave. But let's pull back to just safety in general, right? So, because the other part, you don't just oversee the jail, run the jail. You have a county and safety, public safety to deal with. You heard my conversation with Jason Ilstrup from downtown. We talked about public perception of safety. I'm curious about, you see the data, your deputies live it every single day. When you're out in the community, out on the roads, do you see Dane County as a safe community?
Absolutely. Dane County is one of the safest communities, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but in the United States of America. We have educated, understanding leaders and stakeholders in our criminal justice system that see the importance of investing in the future. We understand that there is a great value in determining or in deterring criminal activity while doing it in a respectable manner. Our core values at our sheriff's office is character, competence, compassion, courage, and communication. And we do that while we keep people safe. I agree with you 100% and with Jason. The perception of crime or being not safe is just as powerful as the actual crime rates, even though our crime rates are showing a steady decrease. So we have to continue to be out in the community. We have to continue to hold those accountable and provide them with the resources they need to be successful. And that's throughout all 1,200 square miles of Dane County, our jail, including the 41 square miles of waterways we control as well at our sheriff's office.
We talk a lot, because we sit at the center of the business community. We talk a lot about innovation. You spent a good piece of your career training the officers, the deputies of the future, and certainly preparing them for innovation. When you think about the public safety space writ large, what does innovation look like? What comes next in public safety?
Well, I think number one is educating our future. I think all of the individuals coming into our profession that have a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree in criminal justice really have a good understanding on what the future looks like. It also takes you through the past of what we've done and how it hasn't been working and why we have to continue to evolve and be better in our practices. We have to focus on the root causes of the issues that we see. We are not going to arrest our way out of the addiction and other issues we see in our community. And we have to find ways to make sure that we're building relationships and solving problems through evidence-based decision-making and procedural justice. And that's the goal, and that's how we're going to be innovative and understanding and forward-thinking in what we do. Arrest does not solve the issues. It just compounds it.
I've heard you say publicly and privately, both the innovation piece, but also the quality of the deputy that you want to recruit, that the fingerprints that you want to put on the sheriff's office, and who we are, and who's reflected in that workforce. How's it going with your recruiting efforts?
Yeah, so our recruitment and retention, I think it's been well known that we have been in a staffing shortage over the past several years, and that's due to retirements, right? 30 years ago, when we built the public safety building, we hired over 100 deputies to fulfill that new facility. They're all retiring at the same time. So our goal is not only to recruit good people that reflect our core values, but to keep the good people that we have. So we believe that recruitment is retention and retention is recruitment. We have a one-day hiring process that'll be January 20th, and we have over 100 applicants that have put in, which is the highest we've had over the past 10 years. So we are doing a great job. Our team is doing a great job of identifying those that are being out there and trying to identify, qualify, and attract the best community servants we can have to join our Dane County Sheriff's Office.
All right, so final question. You had a little bit of a heads up because you heard me ask Jason, but crystal ball.
Yeah.
You're looking out onto the horizon. What's your prediction for 2024?
Prediction for 2024, as I see, it's a continued collaboration with all community stakeholders. We'll continue to build relationships. We'll continue to find innovative ways to work with business owners to provide jobs for those that are incarcerated. But also, I see us as providing, as a community, more resources that are focused on education, entrepreneurship, affordable healthcare, affordable mental health care, affordable housing, and transportation and housing. We focus on those, we will get to the root causes of the issues that cause crime in our communities, and I see it being very, very bright future for us in 2024.
Well, Sheriff, let me wrap up by saying how much you're appreciated. And certainly I can't speak for the entire community, but I speak for, a big important piece of the community when it comes to the business community. Your dedication to innovation, your dedication to, making sure that we are a better community tomorrow than we were yesterday, shine through. And I certainly appreciate the efforts that you put forward, and just know it doesn't go unrealized, the challenges and the headwinds that it's not as if you have an easy job, even if you make it look easy sometimes. And so I just want to say thank you for spending some time with us today, but more importantly, thank you for doing what's right and what's best for this community. So
thank you. Thank you for your support and your kind words. And I'm honored and blessed to serve as your sheriff. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Sheriff. I want to thank all of you as well for a great year, great 2023 when it comes to the lunch update programming. You continue to engage with it. We continue to see value. Certainly our sponsors see value. And with that, it's a big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, who makes all of this possible. We certainly value them for helping us bring this to you. My prediction for 2024 is that we as a community are going to continue to see resilience. The stories that you heard today are about this rebuilding. It's building back in a way that addresses the aspirations of who we can be and who we should be. And I'm excited for what the next year looks like, but even more importantly, what the next decade looks like as we drive to create truly a different model for a better place in this community. And that's because of you that's possible. So thank you. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. And we'll see you next year right here on Lunch Update.